Well, I think freedom is practically and morally the most important value in the world. I don't think humans can have happiness without freedom. And I think that Western civilization really is built on the pillars of life, liberty, and property, which I define as the three temporal aspects of freedom. So, to lose your life is to lose your future freedom. To lose your liberty is to lose your present freedom. And to lose your property would be to lose the fruits of your past freedom. And I think by just optimizing or maximizing freedom, and I say maximizing because this means to increase a metric at the exclusion of all other metrics. And I've had arguments with people like Balaji about these. It's like, you can't be a maximalist, you have to be an optimalist. But freedom, in my opinion, has a limiting principle built into it. So if we all maximize our own freedom, our own wealth, our own optionality, our own happiness, within the boundary or limiting principle of other people's private property, then that is the ideal world in my view. So I think freedom maximalism is the way we achieve the greatest happiness, the greatest wealth, and the most satisfaction human wants in the world.
Does that map more onto a kind of libertarian perspective or an anarchist perspective, or are those not really operative?
No, it is. It is somewhat of a synthesis. I tried to pull a term that was very clear. It was not muddied with politics. Like if you say you're a libertarian today, that means you're trying. A lot of people would perceive that as a political party, so that you're running for election inside of a political apparatus. Freedom maximalism would be much more like anarcho-capitalism,
right?
So like low to no government.
Right.
There's also a term called agorism,
right?
Which is all human interrelations should be based on mutual consent.
Right.
And we know this, right? Like the difference between a job and slavery is consent. The difference between a transaction and theft is consent. I think that mutual volition is the only sustainable binding for socioeconomic systems.
So this is kind of like libertarianism in this reading is the ultimate consent culture.
Mutual consent everywhere. No imposition, no coercion, no compulsion, no violence.
Talk about how that then, why is Bitcoin the difference maker in all of this?
For the first time in human history, we have a money that cannot be corrupted through imposition or fiat, as we might say. And it's something that you engage with purely voluntarily. You can't even implement a coercive element into Bitcoin. It doesn't work. So it's quite the rabbit hole. It seems like for the first time, man has created something that man himself cannot corrupt. And it's fascinating to me that, we've written things into software in the world that have in turn shined back into us and rewritten our own software. I would include things like the Magna Carta or the American Constitution in this category. We wrote these laws, rules, principles to abide by, and that actually changed the way we treat one another. It changed culture. It changed the world, frankly. We've done that again with Bitcoin. We've taken this life, liberty, and property triumvirate, if you will, and we've perfected it in unbreakable code.
And that is because Bitcoin is governed by a series of rules, by a code. So there can't be more of it. Right. There can't be. In a way, there can be less of it, right? Because estimates are that maybe 20% has gone missing and is probably not going to be found again.
Right. And every time you could also send your Bitcoin to a burner address, as they call it, which would be an you cannot recover from the address, so it effectively takes it out of the floating supply. That acts as just an anti-dilutive contribution to everyone.
Right.
It's like burning tokens.
Yeah.
But the critical thing is it cannot be inflated.
Right.
And as I touch on a lot in my work, inflation is theft. We know this. If you own stock in a company, you wouldn't give one guy the ability to increase his own share count and dilute others. That's nonsensical.
And by the end of this conversation, however long or short it is, we will have less freedom than we did at the start, right?
We're all being robbed right now. I have dollars in my pocket. I'm being robbed right now.